Hey guys, today it's story time, and we're going to be talking about how one agent lost their client $50,000.
Hey guys, it's Cole and Kelly Watkins here with the Bridge Group, and today we're talking about why who you work with matters in real estate. Real estate is actually not that hard of an industry to get into.
Yeah.
There's a lot of real estate agents out there right now. There's a lot of brand new agents out there right now, and this is a very good reason of why who you work with matters. Now, there's over 48,000 agents in all of the Houston area. And there's really, the barrier to entry is very low. It's about 180 hours of class time. You take a state and national exam, and all you have to do is join a brokerage, and you're released, to do business.
Get your fingerprints into the state,
Oh, yes.
do a background check, make sure you're not a criminal, and they release you out there to really help or not help someone with one of their biggest investments that they can possibly make, which is your home, right? The majority of the 48,000 agents are part-time, which is very scary, and I believe maybe what could have factored into this story. So let's go ahead and get started with our story time. Now, Kelly and I are representing the seller on this, and we actually just closed last week.
Yay.
So there is a happy ending to this story. There was going to be a happy ending no matter what, because we were representing the seller.
Yeah.
The buyer's agent failed to realize the seriousness of a 1-to-4 residential real estate TREC promulgated contract. In the contract, one of the things that we see, there's a lot, there's 28, 29 different points, but when it comes to the earnest money, and there are so many different factors, but earnest money specifically, option money specifically, when you sign a contract and it's executed, meaning both parties, buyer and seller, agree on terms and pricing, that means that it is executed. That means that it is a full contract, right then and there. Now you have 3 days to get your option and earnest money to the title company that is going to be handling that transaction 3 days from the signing of that contract. If you do not, and you're the buyer, get that option and earnest money to the title company, then you are in breach of contract.
You lose your option period if you don't get your option fee in. And then if you don't get your earnest money in, then there's no official contract.
And it doesn't matter, if you go through your inspections and everything else, if that earnest money doesn't get into the title company, it's over. Legally, you forfeit the earnest money, and that is one of the only instances where a seller can kind of have the upper hand in backing out of the contract.
Right.
This is what happened. We are on the market. We get an offer. That offer falls through for whatever reason. Then we go back under contract with these buyers, and it was a very, very favorable contract. Not only did they match the previous price, but they also had a $50,000 earnest money. That's where our $50,000 figure comes in. $50,000 earnest money.
Typically, how much is it?
Typically, the earnest money is 1% of the agreed upon purchase price. So what they did was they deposited the option within the first 3 days, but there was never any earnest money deposited. So after that third day, we're watching everything. We're seeing what's going on. We go through the inspections with them, negotiate the inspections. Not a big deal there, but we say, okay, hey, playtime is over. We need you to submit the $50,000 earnest money. They were trying to hold that earnest money ransom in the event that we could extend option and extend option. We said, absolutely not. We will not be extending option. Actually, there is no option here. They essentially thought that the earnest money could just be withheld.
Right.
They could terminate the contract and move about their way. Here's the problem with that, is that they already signed a contract with us, and that is a binding document between the seller and the buyer. So at the end of the day, knowing your contracts is number one to being a competent agent, let alone a dangerous agent. We knew that we had the upper hand, and at any moment, the sellers could have called the buyers on that $50,000. They could have taken them to a court. The judge would have just said, hey, let me see the contract. This is going to be an easy one. Let me see the contract. The judge would have seen the contract, looked at the wording of the $50,000, the earnest, and then he would have awarded the sellers the $50,000, and the sellers would have been able to take the $50,000, cut that contract with that buyer, and sell it to someone else. So they actually would have made a lot more, possibly, if they wouldn't have gotten that much of an offer price that they got previously. So at the end of the story, the buyer's agent would have lost their client $50,000 by not keeping them up to date to what the contract says. We understand that our clients don't do this every day. We understand that the majority of people don't know, and they need to be walked through these contracts and the timelines and everything else. That's why at the Bridge Group, our timelines, they coincide with your Google Calendar. We're giving you updates. We're calling you. We're giving you videos to let you know the severity of some of the things that you're signing.
Right. Well, and the other thing about this particular circumstance was they could have gotten their earnest money back, right, if they had deposited it and they had asked for it before the option period ended. But they did not deposit it, and they did not ask for it before the termination period ended. So that was one of the biggest mistakes. They tried to terminate after the 5 p.m. deadline, and they sent it over an email termination instead of a physical document, saying that the official document that they would need to terminate. So there's a lot of missteps on this agent's part, but we were able to get a win for our client at the end of the day, and the buyer ended up getting the property, right?
Well, at the end of the day, within an hour's time, the agent tried to hardball us where they had no ground to stand on and say, well, we're going to terminate. See, this email is our termination. You have to send a written termination on a truck promulgated form signed by the buyer so that we know that the buyer wants to terminate. An agent just can't send an email. And so when they sent that, we waited till after 5 o'clock, and then I called their broker. I let the agent know that we have already contacted their broker and our attorney, and we would be closing this with them, or we would be receiving their $50,000 and moving forward. So within an hour and a half, we received the earnest money at title via wire. They all of a sudden had no excuses in getting that in because I had a feeling maybe a higher up probably got a hold of them. At the end of the day, who you work with matters, and we are very diligent about knowing our contracts, continuing our education, and making sure that our clients are always put in a very safe position to where we're negotiating from the higher ground.
And not only does it matter who you work with in terms of saving you money or not losing you money, but also in making sure that you gain money. So maybe another time we'll tell a story about someone that was going to list their property with an iBuyer or have an iBuyer buy it, and then we listed it and got them thousands and thousands of dollars more than they would have gotten. So
$70,000. Yeah, I think that is probably going to be shot next week with Mr. Nick. So
who you work with matters, and saving you money and making sure you make extra money, not losing you money. Not only that, but mental peace, all of the things that go along the roller coaster of buying or selling a home. Who you work with matters to make sure that you have a smooth experience.
Can you imagine being the buyer on that other side?
Oh gosh, no.
It was unfortunate, but that buyer was calling us saying, what's going on?
Yeah.
And that's never a position that you want to be in as a part of a real estate transaction.
So making sure that you choose carefully who you work with in this real estate industry, and not just using an aunt or a friend of a friend, making sure that you know that someone who has a lot of experience in this Houston market is really going to be key to making sure you have a good and positive experience. So if you have any real estate needs here in the Houston area, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
We're here for you.
Thank you.